What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the TLZ Podcast, where we talk with professionals about the journey, the mindset, and what it really takes to compete at the highest level. Remember that when you train your mind, you change your game. This week, I wanted to do a host-only episode. After putting out our first 4 episodes, it felt like a good time to pause and talk through some observations and thoughts that I have. So let's get into it. Today, I wanted to cover some things that I noticed when I went to watch Adult Nationals recently, and also just a recap on the 4 episodes that we did with our special guests and go through some highlights and things that were talked about. So first, I do want to talk about going to Adult National. It was really cool to, see everybody again. We saw a lot of familiar faces, and it was just really good to be, back in that competition space. And we also saw some of our guests. We saw Presley and Lauren competing at the tournament. Especially I know Lauren just came back from a foot injury, so it was good to see her back on the court playing again. Also, one thing that came up when I was at Adult Nationals was that people came up to me and asked me, why we relaunched the TLZ podcast. And there's actually a funny story behind it, which is I was actually at Junior Nationals last year in Minnesota to watch some of the younger players play. And a lot of the little kids, like they were like, I think it was like 10-year-olds and like some 13-year-old kids came up and they were like, "Oh my God, Tony, we watch your podcast." And I was kind of taken back because, obviously we haven't posted an episode in like 2 to 3 years. So I was very surprised that, the younger generation is still watching the episodes and finding them useful and learning from them. And it was just really a great experience, hearing them talk about it. That's one thing. And the other thing is when I was outside of the venue, I was taking a breather and a parent came up to me and was like, "Hey, Tony, why did you stop doing the podcast?" And I told him what I told everybody, which is, at the time COVID just ended, I went back to UCLA. And then also I was working at the same time. So I had a lot on my plate. It just wasn't a great time to still, be continuing the podcast. And the parent was so straightforward. He just straight up said, "Tony, stop making excuses. Relaunch the podcast now." Right. And like, we all want to listen to it. And especially from like a parent's point of view, he said it gives the parents some insight into how the players think. Normally the players wouldn't share that much with the parents. So it's really good to hear that side of things. And I found that, very interesting. And also it just pushed me to really think about relaunching the podcast. So after I came back from Minnesota, I did some brainstorming, brought back together the team. And yeah, so that's why we're back and we're, relaunching the podcast. And so far it's been I think it's a pretty big success. Thanks to you guys, without your guys' support and all the different comments and messages that I've received in the last few weeks telling us about how great the podcast is and how much you guys are enjoying it. So really huge shout out to you guys. The podcast is back largely because of you guys. And hopefully we continue to bring you guys great content with good value and entertainment for you guys to watch. But yeah, that's the story, behind us relaunching the TLZ podcast. And we're super excited to bring even better episodes coming up. And yeah, going back to Adult Nationals, the competition was great. Energy, atmosphere in the club was great. And one thing I did notice, however, though, like even though there was a lot of people watching the tournament, especially on the last 2 days, semis and finals, there were crowds around the courts and it was good energy. But I think overall, after watching Adult Nationals, it made me think about the bigger picture for badminton in the US even more, right? Because we got to keep in mind that Adult Nationals is the biggest, basically, adult tournament in the US, right? So I think we should be expecting even higher viewership, whether it be from the badminton community itself or people outside of the badminton community, right? Because, obviously we want to expand the sport and have people come and just learn and enjoy the sport from an entertainment perspective, right? And I think there are many things that we can do to help us grow the sport within the US at least right now. And one of the things I think would definitely help would be like just on the marketing side, from the beginning, because like if we look at Adult Nationals and how it was like presented to the public, I think we could have done a better job like on the marketing end, making sure that people within the badminton community knew that this was happening. And number one, know the competition is happening. Number two, maybe certain highlights or matchups are coming up that, hey, like you guys should come out and watch this, right? And give people some incentive to come watch, right? And that's just for the badminton community itself. And outside of the badminton community, we also have just regular people who may not know the sport as well, right? And I think we need to educate them through marketing on what it's about and attract them through the entertainment perspective, right? Of coming here to an event on your free time and just having a good time with your friends, watching some great badminton, right? And I think that's definitely something that we can improve on, just the marketing end. But besides marketing, I think the other thing is just the sheer amount of players, right? Obviously, the level of US badminton has increased with amazing players like Presley, Jenny Guy, Lauren, right? As well as, Allison and I'm just, Hermes, just a bunch of people. And obviously the level is increasing, right? But I think we need more volume, more players, right? To come out and compete. And that starts from junior badminton, right? And this is something that we touched on with Presley when Presley was on the podcast, is that we need to encourage junior players to continue playing after U19, right? Because a lot of junior players view U19 as a endpoint for their badminton career because they're like, okay, we get to U19, we got into college, that's it, we're done, right? But I think we need to show U19 players, like from a media standpoint and also just player standpoint, we need to show them that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for this career, right? One thing is like you get to fulfill your passion for badminton, but the other thing is there could be a financial path down the road that works for you as a badminton player, right? And that goes into exactly what I want to discuss next, which is how can we find a financial path for badminton players, especially in the Pan American region, right? Because if we listen to the people that came on the podcast, the players that came on the podcast, like Josh, Catherine, Lauren, like everybody, there's one thing that is in common is that players in the Pan American region struggle with finances to support their badminton career. One thing is just making enough to even travel to these tournaments. And a lot of them, they need to get their parents' support, right? Which is really just what everybody depends on, which is the truth. And the other thing is you got to also be able to live, right? Eventually you got to want to have your own life. Like how are you going to do that, following your badminton career in the Pan American region? So I think it's very important we find a sufficient path, for badminton players, especially in the Pan American region to support themselves, right? And I've been thinking about this question for a long time. And I feel like one of the ways that badminton players can potentially be able to support themselves financially and be able to have that financial base would be through social media, right? Because one thing is in sports is results. Obviously, results speak louder than anything, right? But the other thing is the value that you bring with your persona, right? And I think a lot of players, like, because, a lot of Pan American players are new to this, right? We don't think about social media as much as something that we need to focus on compared to just raising our level, right? As a badminton player, we want to be noticed on the world stage, which is super important as well. But I think alongside that, if Pan American players are able to follow up with engaging, entertaining social media accounts that kind of journals their journey, right? Like their daily activities, the workouts that they do, the dieting that they're doing, right? The hardships that they go through every single day. I think these details not only help you build a loyal fan base, right, on social media, but also you are increasing the popularity of the sport just worldwide, right? And like it's basically like killing two birds with one stone. And I see a lot of players already starting to do this. Like a lot of players are growing their social media accounts, and that's great, right? I think that's like the right path to take. I just think overall, players start that from the beginning because usually social media, I feel like it's like a long term thing, right? You need time to let it grow. So if players are able to start that from the beginning, show that progress for every single tournament, you're engaging with your fans or the people that are following you and giving them an incentive to stay and go to tournaments to watch you play. And I think this overall not only, helps you right in the future, but also eventually will be able to create a financial base where you can take on brand deals from different brands, whether it be nutritional brands or clothing brands, but also from the major, obviously, badminton brands, right? Like Yonex, Victor, Li Ning, the big three, right? They would be more willing to, I'm sure, give more money in their sponsorship deals for players who have that vast reach to, a bigger audience. So I think social media is definitely a route that could work for badminton players in the Pan American region financially because it's something that, is flexible, right? if there's one thing that, badminton players have, professional badminton players have, is stories and just experiences, right? And things that they go through every day because they have a very interesting life. They're traveling all the time, going to different places, eating different foods, playing in different arenas, living in different hotels. Like these are all like so many different content that I think badminton players can touch on, right? And so I think this is just like a little, um, like I guess suggestion for badminton players, especially in the Pan American region or any country where players are independent. That social media is a route that we can take to potentially help us on that end. And I think on top of that, obviously, like just for future badminton expansion, media involvement is super important. Just like what we're doing here at TLZ Podcast, sharing the stories of players, giving more context behind their growth and also advice for young players. I think this is really important. And also one of the reasons why, we started TLZ podcast in the first place. And I see a lot of other media channels doing the same thing. And also I think we are definitely seeing that growth, right? In that space with Shuttle Zone doing their thing, which is super cool, honestly, like the videos that they post. And yeah, I just think overall, like if we're able to all work together as a team, right? With the organizations, the players, the media, if everybody's working together, we can definitely make badminton bigger, not just in the Pan American region, but also across the world, right? Just expand the sport as much as we can. And but yeah, that's what I was thinking about, when I was watching Adult Nationals. But congrats to all the winners, right? At Adult Nationals, you guys played really, really well, and it was just absolute pleasure to watch you guys play in person. But yeah, apart from Adult Nationals, I do want to do a quick recap, on our four special guests that came on. Huge shout out to all of our guests, Lauren, Catherine, Joshua, and Presley for coming on and giving us insight into their stories and experiences. I thought every story was a little unique and everybody brought something on the table that was different and super interesting. With Lauren, I thought her journey through life, the hardships that she faced with her dad's passing and the injuries that she had to deal with, and just the different obstacles that she had to go through, and still to be able to have that mental resilience to fight through everything and to have that passion for the game and to continue to promote it on the court through her entertaining celebrations, right? So I think that was really special on Lauren's end. And then for Catherine, we learned that the perspective from a Canadian player. She specifically showed the financial burdens of a Pan American player and also how one tournament it can matter so much for an Olympic qualification race. I think that was super interesting. And sometimes, as athletes, you live for that one moment, that could change your life. And it's all about persistence and continuing to try and consistency. So I think Catherine's story really highlighted that aspect of being an athlete. And Joshua, obviously, I think Joshua's podcast was definitely very interesting, because his stories and experiences that he shared about the Olympics at the 2024 Paris Olympics was just absolutely amazing because he went so in detail about, the people that he met, the different activities that he did in the Olympic Village, the game that he played. It was just the opening ceremony. I mean, listening to the stories like gave me chills because it was so insightful to listen to somebody who was actually in the Olympics, like, playing on the boat in the opening ceremony, eating in the Olympic Village. And just, I think his story was just absolutely amazing. And it was great listening to it. And obviously, Presley, the best to do it right now in the US with his doubles partner, Hermes. And recently they won the gold at the Adult National. So congratulations to them. And yeah, I think Presley's one stood out as like a beacon of light almost to younger players as well, because he came from a place that was very difficult, right? He didn't do very well as a junior player, which I think like a lot of junior players can relate to, right? And that was kind of also one of our hopes when Presley and I were making the podcast, is that we wanted junior players to see the light at the end of the tunnel and know that even though maybe if you're not succeeding as a junior, you still have a chance as an adult, right? It doesn't mean that that's the end of the road for you, right? So that was one of the things that we really wanted to touch on, and just to be able to give junior players that hope to, continue fighting and know that as long as you keep trying and you have that consistency and you're working hard, you will be able to come out in the end. So definitely shout out to Presley for that message, that we were able to send through his episode. And yeah, and we're constantly watching over them through their next tournaments. I believe they are in the middle of Malaysia Open right now. And so, yeah, good luck to all the players and Team USA and all the different players that are playing in Malaysia Open. But yeah, I think overall the 4 episodes were amazing and you guys responded super well to it. And I'm so happy that we're able to bring value to you guys through those episodes. And we do have very amazing episodes coming up in the next few weeks that I'm super excited to share with you guys. Amazing players and other people from different perspectives, like umpires, maybe photographers, or even like PT, physical therapists for badminton players. So we have a lot of things planned, and I'm excited to share with you guys. I don't want to say too much. We will, be releasing a lot of information coming up about the guests that will be coming to the podcast. So we're super excited to share that with you guys. But thank you guys so much for all of the support that you guys have shown. This is the end of the episode for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you click that like button and the subscribe button down below, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at the TLZ Podcast to stay updated on all of the different information that's coming out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and looking forward to sharing new episodes coming out with more amazing guests and bringing more entertainment and value to the badminton community. So thank you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.